Okay, I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Today's webinar topic is a big and exciting one. It's the first webinar hosted by Lucid's customer success team that actually invites both buyers and suppliers to join the conversation because it's around a topic that impacts the overall marketplace. We're going to be talking about trust and safety today. So we'll cover what that means at Lucid and how this initiative came to be, and then we'll get into some details about the specific programs that are a part of it. So we'll start with some introductions. Hosting today, we've got myself, Jenny Kloss, and Christy Ka'a'a, who are members of the buyer customer success team here at Lucid. And we've also got Mel Boygon, who leads our supplier customer success team, as well as Katie Plochet, who's been leading Lucid's charge on trust and safety since last fall. And as always, before we jump in, we've got just a couple of housekeeping items to cover. First, a copy of the presentation and a recording of this webinar will be sent to all those who registered for the event. So please feel free to share that with colleagues who weren't able to make it today. Also, we will be hosting another identical session of this webinar. It's going to be an APAC hour session. So that one's going to be next week on May 21st at 3:30 a.m. GMT, if you or any of your colleagues would like to join that as well. And with that, we are ready to jump in. So here's our agenda for the presentation. As I mentioned, we'll start with an overview of trust and safety, including some history and how it came to be. And we'll also dig into what trust and safety means at Lucid. Then we'll get into specifics and go over some individual initiatives that make up trust and safety. And finally, we'll wrap up with a summary and an overview of where we are today. And we'll do a quick Q&A with some questions that were submitted by some of you ahead of time. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Katie, who's going to start us off.
Thanks, Jenny, and a big welcome to all of our participants. Thanks for joining us today. Trust and safety has always been an integral part of Lucid since our start in 2010. In the early days, our focus was on establishing strong API connections with our supply partners, scaling our services business, and ensuring that buyers had the support needed to run surveys on the marketplace. As our business expanded globally, our need to formally build a security program also grew. In 2016, fraud was a latent concern, as our marketplace was still in the growth phase. We did launch a program focused on the health of our supply chain. We closely monitored our supply partners' reconciliation rate, which represents the number of completes supplied that are removed due to quality concerns. For any supply partners with a high reconciliation rate, account teams stepped in to discuss security protocols. If the reconciliation rate was unable to be brought down after weeks of working together, Lucid's partnership with the supplier was terminated. This program lives on and is still in full effect today, with some notable improvements. You'll hear more about those improvements a bit later on in the webinar. A year later, in 2017, Lucid developed a solution for our buyers, a hashing solution to secure survey redirects. At that time, we saw fraudsters trying to manipulate the system by tampering with the complete signal as it was sent back to Lucid. Use of Lucid's hashing solution secured that complete signal and worked well for a long time. As with all things, the solution needed to evolve. Around this time, we started to see fraud become more visible and organized. Click farms became a buzzword, and forums, such as Reddit, were filled with comments of people trying to figure out how to game the survey system. We quickly transitioned from being a company focused on providing human answers at scale to doubling down on growth with quality and security assurance. Various departments at Lucid shared the responsibility of developing solutions to help us and our clients stay ahead of the fraud game. The Lucid Trust and Safety team was officially sanctioned in 2019. As we looked outside of our industry at other marketplace companies, such as Amazon, Etsy, Airbnb, and Facebook, we noticed a common theme. These marketplaces provided a place for people to feel safe interacting with complete strangers. These companies also took full ownership of the inventory exchanged across their marketplace, and Lucid was ready to do the same. Trust and safety is a good thing. a sign of growth, and a sign of a commitment for taking ownership of transaction disputes. We were thrilled to officially sanction our trust and safety team, aligning company priorities and providing more resources than ever to ensure marketplace users have an efficient, positive experience. The goal of the trust and safety team is to ensure a frictionless marketplace experience. Ideally, the transaction is successfully completed on the first try. However, in the unfortunate event of a problem, it is the job of the trust and safety team to ensure a seamless resolution experience. In order to do this, one thing remains paramount: marketplace equality. Here at Lucid, all clients are subject to the rules of the marketplace. No clients are given preferential treatment, and there are no exceptions for high volume or legacy relationships. The goal is to level the playing field to allow true marketplace dynamics to take effect. As a reminder, Lucid does not fix or control price, and we are completely transparent as to the source of the sample that is being bought or sold to you. The name of the game is enabling the scale of transactions, and doing so in a way that ensures quality and security. Trust and safety is not just one thing, one project, or one initiative that we can execute and cross off the list. Trust and safety is an all-inclusive umbrella that covers the programs, products, integrations, guidelines, and processes dedicated to ensuring we have a safe, healthy marketplace. Our goal is to protect the ecosystem by taking actions deemed fair, reasonable, and responsible to all parties. We approach everything as a three-party transaction between Lucid, the buyer, and the supplier. When one party encounters a problem, Lucid has accountability for ensuring a swift resolution that balances the needs of all three sides. Now, it's important to not forget about the respondent. We recognize that the respondent is often the most impacted individual in the transaction. Respondents are a core component to our shared success, and their consideration is of utmost importance in our approach to ensure a fair and effective resolution. As such, Lucid is committed to upholding the protection of respondent data in all actions and dispute resolutions. All this said, the intention is that you don't actually interact with Lucid's trust and safety team. Instead, we want to be transparent with you about the actions that are taking place in the background that help us sustain a sound ecosystem. The purpose of the trust and safety team is to monitor the marketplace and help guide customers back into their lane if they deviate from the norm. In sum, a marketplace is most successful when each party does their part to ensure that the transaction is of the highest quality possible. So let's dive into some of the specific initiatives and efforts that fall under the umbrella of Lucid's trust and safety team. We're going to start with programs geared towards buyer assistance, led by our buy-side CSMs, Christy and Ginny. And then we'll review our supply partner-focused programs, led by Mel. Lastly, we'll close with some Q&A. Christy, take it away.
Thanks, Katie. The first program we will be reviewing is Survey Improvement. The purpose of this program is to promote positive interactions for both researchers and respondents with the Lucid Marketplace by enforcing minimum standard performance metrics that buyers must meet. Those of you that are buyers have probably heard your customer success manager talk about conversion rate and EPC a lot, because these are two very important metrics to consider when we're talking about appropriate pricing. So just for good measure, you'll see that we have both of the definitions listed here. Conversion rate on the left is simply completes divided by pre-screens or client-side entrants. Out of the number of respondents that get sent into your survey, how many of them complete? And on the right is EPC, or earnings per click. And it's the completes times the cost per interview divided by system entrants. So EPC is a function of conversion and price, and it really highlights whether or not a survey is being priced appropriately. Both of these metrics are so important because suppliers use these to help evaluate all the available demand on the marketplace. You'll see at the bottom of each box here that we've listed a target for each metric. As many of you have likely heard before, we consider a healthy EPC to be about 20 cents or higher on average. In terms of conversion rate, we're shooting for about 20% or higher because that's best practice. And across the marketplace, we see our conversion continue to increase about 1 or 2 percentage points quarter over quarter. All buyers on the marketplace are required to maintain healthy metrics, and your CSM is the one who will help identify if your overall metrics are falling below these healthy thresholds, and they'll help you take the steps to improve them. Next, we're going to outline the improvement steps here today, so you'll be well informed and able to perhaps take some of these steps on your own to stay ahead of any potential problems. The first thing you want to do if you're flagged for low conversion or low EPC is to evaluate your book of work that you're putting on the marketplace. The types of surveys we have listed here are not always the best fit. Now, that's not to say they can't be done. These projects can absolutely be ran successfully, but they require proper setup and, again, appropriate pricing. So to call out a few of these, the first being lower LOIs. These are important because it helps ensure that respondents are staying engaged throughout the entire survey experience, and in turn are providing thoughtful answers to all survey questions. For surveys with PII collection, we need to notify suppliers of that before a survey launches. Some suppliers have agreements in place with their respondents that they will not expose panelists to any surveys with PII, so we want to be as transparent as possible about these opportunities. These types of surveys may leave respondents in situations that they did not agree upon when they signed up to take surveys in the first place, so we want to limit them if possible. Second, as a Lucid buyer, you will want to take a look at the health metrics that most affect conversion and EPC, and they're listed here. So the first is drop rate, which is the rate of respondents that get sent into your survey and don't come back to the marketplace for whatever reason. Second, your reconciliation rate, or how many responses you're tossing out. Next is your over quota rate, which is the number of respondents that get terminated because you've already filled a certain quota. And lastly is your average length of interview. All of these are factors that bring your conversion rate down, which ultimately bring your EPC down. So you'll really want to dig into these closely. Can you find patterns where respondents are dropping out of your surveys? Is there a particular quality concern that is prompting you to toss out a lot of respondents that maybe we could have addressed in the front end? Really digging in and creatively addressing individual metrics like this, we've seen can have a major impact on the overall health of an account. Third, evaluate your pricing practices. If you've gotten your individual metrics to healthy levels and you're setting up projects properly, it may be as simple as your CPI is not appropriate for the type of work you're running. And you can raise your EPC to healthy levels simply by offering a fairer price. So let's use an example to outline what steps you'd need to help improve your EPC. For our example, we have a survey that's priced at $1 and is converting at 10%. This would be an EPC around 10 cents. If we want to improve our EPC to match the goal, which is 20 cents, we would need to improve our CPI to $2. Also note that the other side of the EPC equation involves conversion, so we can increase our conversion by making sure projects are using qualifications to target the correct audience. And finally, you'll want to evaluate your targeting. Are you using as many standard qualifications as possible instead of using custom qualifications? Are you including the necessary qualifications to properly geo-target or properly target B2B audiences? Those are the types of things your CSM will look for to ensure that you're effectively communicating to supply partners on the marketplace the types of audiences you're looking for. And being proactive about these 4 items will help ensure that your survey is as optimized as possible and the healthy metrics will follow. So next, I'm going to hand it over to Ginny, who will review another initiative focused on our survey inventory.
Awesome, thanks, Christy. So this initiative is one where we've actually added automation to help with survey health monitoring for the purpose of improving the respondent experience and ensuring that sample sent into the marketplace is sample that's ultimately converted to a complete. So the way this works is we've built smart systems that are constantly monitoring live surveys on the marketplace and reviewing survey metrics in real time. So when a survey is detected to have unhealthy metrics, the system will actually automatically pause it and send an email alert to the project manager. This email lets the project manager know which survey was paused and why, so they can immediately go in and troubleshoot the errors that are preventing respondents from completing. So I'm sure the question on all your minds when you hear this is, what is the criteria for pausing these surveys? So let's take a closer look at that. We have a number of different advanced learning models that we've built to help catch poorly performing surveys, which are constantly expanding and improving. But at this point, we're primarily focused on monitoring conversion rate and drop rate. So to share a couple of criteria examples, if a survey's drop rate is high, our model will automatically pause that. And that's a rolling drop rate. So if the drop rate was fine to begin with, but a few days into fielding the survey, it spikes, that counts. Also, if a survey has been in field for a while with no completes at all, that will also be flagged and paused. And that's sort of a rolling metric as well. So if a survey was receiving completes, but has become stagnant or hasn't received a complete in several days, that will also get paused. So these are the metrics that you want to be monitoring on your own in order to ensure that your survey does not get auto-paused. Both of these metrics, drop rate and conversion rate, are on the main dashboard page in the Marketplace UI, as well as in the in-field metrics section of the details page of your survey. We've made them easy to find so they're able to monitor them effectively. And for our API integrated buyers, our sessions and statistics endpoints provide this data in real time, so you can stay in the know about how surveys are performing and ahead of any potential pauses. So why are we doing this? Again, primarily it's to ensure marketplace health. The goal of this monitoring is to alert project managers immediately when a survey is performing poorly. Many times these issues can be resolved quickly. Typically they're programming glitches or targeting errors, and by pausing these faulty surveys sooner, we speed up the feedback loop for error correction. This improves marketplace health by ensuring that respondents are only sent into surveys where they will actually be able to complete. And this, in turn, also creates a much better respondent experience, which again keeps the health of our industry strong as respondents are coming back to take more surveys. It's really a win for both buyers and suppliers because it elevates the quality of demand across the marketplace. And it's important to say here too that we're constantly working to tweak, improve, and expand these automatic survey pausing systems. And we really welcome any and all feedback. If there are pain points here that you're feeling or other setup errors that you find late in the process that you wish you knew about earlier, please reach out to your account team and let us know. And we can start to build those things into this system. So now we're going to move into some initiatives that are focused around the reconciliation process. So I'm going to pass it back to Christy.
Thanks, Ginny. And before we dive into that, it would be helpful to take a minute for a general overview of reconciliations and the reconciliation process. So as most of you know, the act of reconciling is when a buyer removes poor quality respondents from their data set. Then they communicate these removed completes to Lucid, so the feedback loop can be closed with our supply partners that those respondents came from, and they can take the necessary steps to mitigate poor quality as much as possible. Now, in terms of reconciliation, poor quality is really primarily referring to measuring whether or not the respondent attempted to take the survey in good faith. So acceptable reasons for reconciliation on the marketplace include respondent straightlining, speeding, inappropriate open ends, mismatched respondents between the Lucid pre-screener and client-side screener, and Lucid completes not registering on the client side. On the other hand, there's also unacceptable reasons for reconciling completes, such as an error in the setup of a survey and inaccurate CPIs. These are not valid reasons because they're mistakes made by the buyer, and in those cases, the respondent did attempt to take the survey in good faith and should be compensated for their time. In terms of a timeline for reconciliation, project managers have until the end of the following month when the complete was achieved to remove it for poor quality. So for example, if we had a complete happen today on May 13th, the buyer has until June 30th to submit a reconciliation. Also, it is important to note that reconciliations are based on the individual complete date as opposed to overall project end dates. This window of time is in place to give buyers time to review the data, but with a deadline because we need to close the feedback loop with our supply partners as soon as possible. Now that we have a general overview of reconciliations down, let's jump into our reconciliation guidelines, which is managed by our trust and safety team. We've talked about keeping negative reconciliation rates down as low as possible. So this initiative is about ensuring that when reconciliations do occur, they are within the expected guidelines and for approved reasons. Lucid consistently monitors and audits reconciliation, and this slide outlines that process. When a reconciliation is submitted, it is subject to Lucid's reconciliation audits. If a reconciliation is audited, an auto-generated email will be sent to the project manager with a survey number and the RIDs that were reconciled, asking for more details on the reasons for reconciliation. The email also specifies a time frame for the form to be completed. The additional detail is reviewed to ensure that the reasons for reconciliation are valid. Lucid reserves the right to request supporting documentation for reconciliations and may overturn any reconciliation that does not have a valid reason submitted within the specified time frame. Again, the primary reason we have these guidelines in place is to protect the ecosystem, which will in turn help grow all of our businesses. By monitoring reconciliations, we help prevent buyers from abusing the reconciliation system, and we're able to identify any areas for potential security or training improvements. The feedback and respondent insight we receive from project managers as part of the audit process is also passed along to our supply partners so they can take appropriate actions on their user base. Closing this feedback loop with them allows them to take the necessary actions to keep their negative reconciliation rates down as well. Finally, while providing this feedback after the fact helps suppliers do everything they can to mitigate fraud and poor quality, there are some steps that buyers are required to implement as well to catch these things on the front end. It is important that we do all that we can to prevent fraud, so buyers should implement these security measures if they have not already. You can reach out to your Lucid account team for getting help with getting these implemented. So the first is Secure Client Callback, or SCCB, which is a way to pass the complete redirect from server to server. Next is relevant ID, which has several different data points to detect fraud. And then lastly, attention checkers and quality pledge qualifications are available for tough surveys with multiple open-ended questions. Now I'll turn it over to Mel, who will walk us through some supplier-focused trust and safety initiatives.
Thanks, Christy. As part of trust and safety, we also want to ensure that our supply partners maintain high standards of response quality. We do that primarily by looking at negative reconciliation rates, which, as we've just talked about, are one of the most important metrics in evaluating the quality of sample that's being sent into the Lucid Marketplace. Specifically, by monitoring negative reconciliation rates on a country level, we ensure our supply partners are aware of any vulnerabilities, allowing them to act quickly and efficiently to mitigate any respondent quality or fraud issues. The target negative reconciliation rate for all supply partners is 4% or less. If a supply partner's in-month reconciliation rate exceeds 10% or is double the platform average for any given country, they will be flagged. Following a warning, if rec rates do not improve, traffic for that specific country will be paused. And just as when a buyer's metrics reach unhealthy levels, CSM teams are available to help suppliers improve as well. In order to resume traffic, supply partners must have a security and processes audit conducted with their Lucid account team. After review, supply partners eligible to resume traffic must begin with a soft launch, which is closely monitored with a number of caps and thresholds until quality and security can be verified. Only then will a full relaunch begin. Lucid maintains high quality and respondent expectations for all supply partners, regardless of their location, and this program runs monthly for all suppliers with over 100 marketplace completes per country. We are committed to maintaining diligent quality standards on the supply side and working with our supply partners to rectify any issues as quickly as possible with the goal of overall marketplace health. So to wrap up, trust and safety is constantly evolving here at Lucid. We are continuing to develop these programs to stay ahead of the curve, and our main focus remains on international growth and sample scale. How can we enable our partners to buy more sample more quickly? How can we get that information to our suppliers and as close to real time as possible? How can we ensure the Lucid Marketplace is a frictionless, positive experience for all? To summarize, the broader objectives of the trust and safety team that we've addressed through this webinar are: number one, building more accountability with marketplace participants. Number two, enabling survey improvement. Number three, promoting a better respondent experience. The many varied initiatives that we've addressed today, from survey health to reconciliation guardrails to supplier-focused improvements, are all moving us closer to these three objectives. We believe these priorities are shared responsibilities between buyer, supplier, and Lucid, and we thank you for your efforts in helping us get there. Lastly, we're pleased to share these efforts have been working. A few highlights: system conversion marketplace-wide is at an all-time high of 11.3% in March. The fastest growing and largest segment of work on the platform is high converting with less than 6-minute LOI. In summary, surveys are getting shorter and easier. We will continue to focus on the aforementioned objectives through trust and safety and are looking forward to even further improving the Lucid Marketplace experience. We mentioned this earlier on, but you can think of our trust and safety initiatives as guardrails for the marketplace. The intention is for you, our buy-side or supply-side partner, to be aware of what we're doing. If you're using the marketplace properly, our trust and safety team should fade into the background, working behind the scenes to optimize marketplace experience for all. We understand sometimes things might run off course, and if that's the case, trust and safety will be there to help guide you back into your lane. We're committed to making the marketplace experience as seamless as possible for all parties involved, and we thank you again for your support as we remain focused on growth with quality and security assurance.
Great, thanks, Mel. Next, we're gonna move into our Q&A. Thanks to everyone who completed the Q&A form last week and submitted their questions. We have 3 questions that we're going to cover together, but But as always, feel free to reach out to your account team after this webinar with any additional questions. So the first one, how do you determine what to focus on for trust and safety?
This is Katie. I can take that one. Great question. Our trust and safety initiatives are all data-backed. One source we use for new initiative ideas are support tickets. What topics are our clients reaching out to us for help with? If a support ticket is needed, we have not created an efficient and seamless user experience. For example, we saw a cluster of tickets on the topic of broken redirect links, indicating a failure in the last link of the chain in the respondent workflow. From there, we did more database digging to determine if there were any metric correlations. We saw a spike in drop rates for surveys with reported broken redirect links and identified drop rate as a criteria for automated survey pausing in order to ensure a healthy respondent experience. Another source we use for new initiative ideas are changes in trends related to client health metrics. Does an account exhibit a sudden drop in EPC or conversion? What about a spike in reconciliation rate? Then we look further to see if that change is replicated in a larger group of accounts, slicing the data by region, CPI bucket, by length of interview tier, or even by study type. Where there are correlated data patterns, such as an increase in reconciliation rate for a certain country language, we deploy efforts to dig into the source of that pattern, planning how we can build an initiative to proactively detect these data anomalies with the goal of resolving those undesired spikes or drops in data before they even happen. Lastly, the biggest source of initiative ideas is feedback from you, our clients, as well as our internal teams. What are folks concerned about when they run a study on the Lucid Marketplace, or when they supply a sample into a study? From there, we dig into solving those problems, looking at what the data says to make an informed decision about how to best serve our clients while promoting the health of the ecosystem.
Nice, thanks, Katie. The next question, what is the supplier onboarding process and how do you ensure quality for new suppliers?
Hi, this is Mel. I can take this one. So as our suppliers know, quality begins at the top of the funnel. In terms of new supply on the Lucid Marketplace, this starts with new partner prospecting and vetting. Our business development team requests a number of data points from each prospective supplier and remains consistent across all supplier types, meaning rewards and loyalty panels, affiliate, publishers, and channel partners. The fields that we use to assess supplier quality in the onboarding stage are number 1, experience with market research, number 2, recruitment, number 3, user verification, and number 4, user experience. After vetting these categories, if a potential supply partner does not meet our requirements, they are not permitted to join the marketplace. And we also introduce new suppliers to our quality expectations and improvement programs at the time of their kickoff so that everyone starts off on the right foot. To be clear, we also do not permit exceptions for new or legacy suppliers around our reconciliation rate thresholds.
Nice, cool. And the last question we received, when did these programs start? And I can take this one, really easy. They're live now, so they're happening in the background currently.
And that was the last question. So with that, we conclude today's webinar session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. As a reminder, we will be sending out a copy of this presentation and the recording to all registered participants. So be on the lookout for that soon. And again, if you have any additional questions, your Lucid account team is here to support you. So please feel free to reach out to them anytime. Thanks so much, everyone.